everyone. It's Yusif from Crafting Clouds. And in this week, I want to bring up a topic that I think is very important to discuss for anyone that is using QuickBooks Desktop and Method. This has to do with the sync engine. And this is something that was actually brought up with a fellow business that I work with just this past week. And I felt like this is a frequent and important topic to discuss. So, how do you best set up your sync engine when you're using QuickBooks Desktop and Method? Well, if you want to get a real time sync, I always recommend to all of my businesses if you have a server. And what I mean by a server is a lot of businesses, they have a server that maybe an IT admin handles that basically carries, all of their programs in one centralized area that their team can basically access remotely, either through from home, so it gives them that ability and that flexibility to go ahead and work from home. Or even in the office, there could, people would just access the server from directly within the office. Now, a server could also be just unused computer that you have in your office that is kind of out there in a common area that no one really uses, but is definitely something that could be a good area for you to install your sync engine. Um, so I always recommend for all my businesses to put the sync engine on a server computer. That way, that server computer can be on 24/7. The next important thing is that in order for the QuickBooks sync engine to continue working, the server can never sleep. And this is something that frequently gets overlooked, as often computers have by default sleep settings. Well, you want to turn those sleep settings off because as soon as the computer goes to sleep, it's going to disconnect the sync between QuickBooks Desktop, the sync engine, and QuickBooks. The third thing that I want to talk about is how you're supposed to set it up. Okay. So you get your server computer, you install your sync engine, but before you install your sync engine, you need to have your QuickBooks file open and installed as an admin. So you want to run it as an admin on your computer. Then you also want to log in as the admin user to your QuickBooks desktop file. Now, when you're installing the method sync for the very first time, you do need to install it in single user mode. But then after it's installed, you can have it in either multi-user or single user. It doesn't matter. The sync engine will continue working. It's just for that initial install. Now, once the sync engine is set up, so you're going to go ahead and you're going to install that sync. You're going to accept, it's going to ask you, there's a certificate window that comes up and it's going to ask you if you want to allow the sync engine to communicate with QuickBooks no matter what. You're going to click yes. You're going to give it all the permissions you can. And I'll send you a link actually from the Method Help Center to give you the step-by-step. And I believe they also offer a video on how to install it. It's very, very helpful. It's not hard at all. Once that's installed, now you have your sync engine in your QuickBooks file open at all times. You cannot close your QuickBooks file on your server computer because that will disconnect the sync with the Method sync engine. In order for the Method sync engine to work, QuickBooks has to be open and the Method sync engine needs to be open as well and connected. Okay. So now your server computer set up, it has both your sync engine as well as your QuickBooks file open, as well your power savings are set so that it never sleeps. So your server computer is always on. And again, like I said, it could be an unused computer that's out in the hallway somewhere in a communal area. That way your team can access it if they need to. Or it could be something that's handled remotely on a server computer that you have remotely offsite by an IT administrator maybe that you have or someone in your office that's managing it. Now, there's also other options like Rightworks where they kind of specialize in stuff like this. So if you're not familiar with Rightworks, that could be another option that I hear is a vendor that offers a very good service when it comes to just managing your QuickBooks remotely offsite for you. But then the last thing that I wanted to talk about, which is a very important thing that I want to emphasize, is For a lot of you businesses out there, you may require yourself and many members on your team to have to access QuickBooks in single user mode, which kicks out everyone from the company file. So this was actually something that a challenge that was brought up with one of the businesses, which was we had them set up on a server computer that was remote, but their team needed to access QuickBooks from single user mode. And they also have a copy of their QuickBooks on their local computers. So to satisfy that requirement, if you were to log into QuickBooks on your local workstation while it's open on your server and connected to the sync engine on the server, and you want to connect to single user mode, it will effectively disconnect your method sync. And then you're going to have to repeat all the steps to go back onto the server and reconnect everything, which could be tedious. So instead of doing that, there's two solutions. Solution A, which I highly recommend, is you have your team access the server through a remote desktop connection. Now, I believe on Mac, it's called Parallels. This is something that's going to give the team the flexibility to be able to not disconnect the sync between method and the sync engine and still be able to go in and switch the QuickBooks from multi-user to single user so that they can go in and they can do the necessary changes they need to do under single user mode. But then that's not going to interrupt the sync whatsoever, because you can toggle between multi-user to single user on the server. As long as the method sync is connected, it's not going to interrupt the sync. So I always recommend that first. If you can set up a remote desktop connection where everyone in the office just remote desktops into the QuickBooks file and does what they have to do, and then put it back to multi-user mode afterwards, or even leave it in single user mode. It doesn't matter. That way it doesn't interrupt the sync. The second and final option, which is an option maybe where it's gonna, the second option is mainly more suited for people who are not as technically savvy. Maybe they don't like the remote desktop connection route for their own personal reasons or whatever reason it may be, is to just set up the company file on an unused computer in a communal area within the office. That way, all of your employees, all of your staff, if they need to access QuickBooks in single user mode, they can just walk up to that computer in the communal area, do the necessary changes without interrupting the sync, and then go back to their desk afterwards. So that is the second option. That is a gist of the best practice of setting up your QuickBooks Desktop sync engine. Now, if you ever want to talk more about the possible scenarios that I haven't covered on this call, feel free to reach out to me. My contact information below. I'm more than happy to get on a call with you, completely free, obviously, to discuss what is the best way to set up your method desktop sync engine with QuickBooks given your current constraints. Other than that, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll talk to you guys on the next one.